Hello everyone and welcome to Organic Matters, the podcast brought to you by the Irish Organic Association. It is a beautiful sunny day here in County Cork. I'm delighted to be here with two farmers. Can you introduce yourselves please?
I'm Emer Fahy.
And this is Niall Moynihan, and we're farming here in Boherby.
And it's a bit of a building site. I don't think you mind me saying that at the minute, but it is a really beautiful stone building that's in front of us. And I suppose before we talk about the Dexters, which I know we're going to talk about some Dexter beef and the organic farm here, but first of all, the stone building, what is it?
Yeah, well, I suppose we're renovating our, it's our old family home on the farm. It's an old stone cottage. So yeah, it dates back, we can't actually put a date in it, but it's on one of the earliest OS maps in a way, so there's a lot of history in it. So
definitely the 1830s we're talking about.
Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
And has it always been in the family?
It has, we can date back here to around the 1800s, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
there's an old forge back in the yard as well.
Yeah.
That has had many uses over the years, but we still call it the forge. But it's an old stone building as well.
Yeah. So we're kind of renovating everything as we go along, you know. It's
a work in progress.
It is a work in progress.
That's part and parcel of farm life though, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's no sooner one thing done than there's another thing to be done as well.
Absolutely.
I know.
Absolutely.
I keep saying every year, next year it'll be calmer, but there's always the next project.
A new project.
Yeah.
And a lot of them going at the same time.
Are there kids around as well?
We've got 3 kids. They're all in a creche and school over in Boherby. A 6-year-old, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. So it's beautiful mornings like this when they're at school. It's great to get out and get a bit of work done.
And did you come from a farming background as well?
Yeah, I suppose my family on both sides would have been, both my parents' sides would have been farmers. My parents weren't farmers, but I grew up in a rural area, Newcestown in West Cork.
And the organic farming then, when did you become organic here?
I took over the farm 20 years ago this year from my dad, and I suppose we kind of started out with suckler beef, and we were kind of going very extensive. And in 2006 I kind of always had an eye on going organic, but at that time it was kind of tied into agri-environmental schemes, so we had to get our shed sorted and get slurry stores started. So we kind of it was 2006 before we got all that sorted, so we went organic in 2006, and yeah, haven't looked back really. I suppose it's been a big learning curve really, and but it's great. I couldn't recommend it more really, to be honest.
How have you found the organic thing? Were you familiar with it?
Not really, to be honest. I knew the basics about what organic meant, but not the detail. It wasn't until I moved to the farm here that I began to learn of the detail from from the buildings to just how you treat the animals, to how you just think of it totally holistically from the soil up, just you're kind of the grass and the soil is as much as everything else that grows above ground. And then it's lovely to feed back into it, and as you learn from mistakes and so on, you also learn just such rewards as well, to be able to take the kids down and collect blackberries and learn how the benefit of all the different trees as well that grow on the farm, and how they can kind of help you boost your immunity over the winter as well. And there's just so much to it. It's fascinating really.
Well, the day is on our side, the sun is shining. Will we go and have a look at these cattle and find out a bit about the Dexters?
Sure, yeah. We had our third test yesterday, so they're all inside in the shed at the moment.
Well, that's handy for this podcast.
They're suitably kitted out.
On the way to the shed, you mentioned that you get woofers in working as well. So they're kind of casual workers, usually from abroad, who want to learn more about organic farms. Is that kind of key? Do you need that additional labour as well, would you say?
Yeah, well, organic farming is very hands-on, and so you do need a lot of help with weeding and gardening. We have our own little garden for ourselves, so there's a lot to be done, as well as cleaning out the old house over the summer before we even got started on the stonework. There was an awful lot of clearing out to do, and so everyone helps. and yes, strimming as well.
That's my least favourite job. If I can pass that off to someone, I usually do. Oh,
no, they're
wow.
brilliant. Really, they're a great asset to have, woofers.
They bring as much as they, as well as the work. They entice you to want to work harder, and they kind of reflect back your own kind of commitment to the farm as well.
And a lot of these people would like you'd learn as much from them as they would learn from you, and it's kind of a two-way street. It's great. It's
we had a guy who was about to do a PhD in hydrogen technology and how to store energy in hydrogen cells, and he's still texting me about renewable energy and things like that, from France. So that's cool. But oh my God, he loved the farming. He loved the farming, and even every now and again he'd give me a hand milking cows. Oh my God, he couldn't get enough of it. It was unbelievable. But you kind of get a renewed enthusiasm for it as well sometimes. We're at the shed now, and we can see some very shiny Dexter cattle. They're in great condition. What are you feeding them?
It's a totally grass-based system here. And in the shed here, I suppose, this is the shed we built initially to go into the agri-environmental scheme, and it originally had cubicles in it. And this used to be the barn area here at the back, used to be just the straw bedded area, but I suppose last year we took out the cubicles and we went all straw bedded, and we moved them away from the slats as well, so the straw bed is just draining into the slats at the moment, so we don't have any cattle on the slats. So we just have much more farmyard manure, which is much better to put out in the land. You get much better results, really, I think.
And we might talk about the farmyard manure in a second, but for anyone not familiar with Dexters, can you describe them? Size-wise, even compared to your normal cow, what size are they compared to your normal cow?
I suppose the reason we initially went into Dexters was in 2009 there was a really, really bad summer. I think it was 2009, 2010, I can't remember. But and the land around here would be very, it's clay based, so I suppose it got kind of wet, and I just started looking at alternatives to see if there was something lighter that you could put on the land. So Dexters, they're a smaller animal. I suppose your cows are around 350 kilos, and your weaning calves then would kind of probably finish up at around 160, 170 kilos.
In comparison, I have some very big Hereford ladies at home, and they would tip the scales at 800 kilos easily, and they are heavy and hard on the ground as well.
Yeah. So it's just for us, it just made complete sense to go down the road of Dexters. That plus the finish that you can finish them off of grass completely. It's just a win-win with Dexters. I know Whiteheads or Herefords, you can do the same. It means a lot when you're organic that you're not feeding grain, because you're just reducing your external inputs, and that's very important.
They're this lovely kind of, I'd say, warm ruby red colour, and then you get black ones as well, and they are just an adorable size. They really are. I don't want to say pocket sized, because I know they are their own cows in their own right. They aren't just cute to look at. But how many would you have here? Because I see quite a lot in the sheds. And are you calving all year round or just spring?
We have, I suppose last year we calved down 38 cows. We moved our calving dates. We pushed back our calving dates to April this year. I suppose we went back to March last year and we went out to April this year, just so that they can calve outside in the field. And the calves, when they're born, they're just running around the place. They're so healthy. Before that, we were kind of calving in January, February, and once kind of temperatures started going up inside in the sheds in February and March, if one calf got sick, it was just going through the whole shed. And it just really wasn't. It wasn't good from an organic perspective, because you're trying to treat calves, and so it's much healthier for them to be born outside, and they're much happier. So we had all our calves born outside this year, and they're all happy and healthy, and it's great.
And how much land would they be? Would they be on?
So we farm 65 acres here. So they're kept, so about 65 acres of grass, so we can keep them on that. But our calves then, when they come to weanling, maybe in February or March, they go off to another farm, and their contract were there for a year, and then they go to another farm to be finished. So by that we kind of have one group of cattle on the farm, so it just makes management of grassland and grazing a lot easier than having 2 or 3 separate groups, and it just works for us very well, you know.
People have heard of dairy farmers contract rearing heifers. I've never met a suckler farmer who gets animals contract reared. And does it still make ends meet at the end to have them sent away?
Well, I suppose like the plus side of it is you know what you're getting back, and you know what you're putting into your like we direct sell all our beef here, and
everything. So
everything.
if there's 38 cows, if there's 38 calves, you sell it all directly to customers.
Yeah,
that's every single year. That's amazing.
Yeah, and that's, I suppose we and that's all going, like we only supply 2 shops at the moment, so everything else is going directly to families, and it's fantastic. It really is.
And how do the sales work? I mean, do you go to a local abattoir? Do you have it kind of staggered? Do you get them killed at certain periods so you don't have one big glut at a certain period?
No, because we would do about 2 or 3 cattle a month, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we sell online, and so we'd have orders ready to go. So when Niall would go down to the butchers and send off the orders, you know, he'd have them all lined up. So like a lot would go straight out to people. It's couriered nationwide.
Yeah, I suppose the other side of it too is because it's grass finished. The bulk of what we kill would probably start in maybe the end of May, and like we would be doing our last kill now over the Christmas holidays, and that usually we try and keep that going until May. Like we'd have maybe 2 or 3 or 4 animals kind of kept aside that we would keep the online orders going over the winter, but most people, like a lot of our orders would be sold frozen as well to people around Cork, Kerry, Limerick. So.
And how long did it take that kind of business to set up?
You've been doing it about 10 years more. But I suppose this current way of doing it, you know, using the other farmers as a kind of a co-op, it's been about 6 years. 7 years maybe.
I suppose when we went into Dexters in 10 or 12 years ago, when the first adults came to maturity, we kind of started direct selling them. We'd already been kind of direct selling pork and bacon and eggs. So it just we slipped into doing beef then, and we started doing farmers markets, and like we were at a time we were doing 3-4 farmers markets a week up to probably before COVID.
5 years ago, yeah.
Probably
it's changed a lot.
The last ones were probably before COVID, and
once COVID hit, then neighbour food. We started getting involved with neighbour food,
and online business started to take off, and it's really good though, because an awful lot of the marketplaces that we were doing, the farmers markets, like we would have taken a core group of customers from there who are still customers today. So like they text us every month looking for their box of beef.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. Like it's really satisfying. It's great that you you can see that they're return customers, and they. And
what's a standard? Would you sell it in a 10 kg box, a 20 kg box, and what would be in it?
Sell it whatever way you want it.
True salesman pitch there. That was very good. That was very, very good.
In the way you want it. I suppose, look, usually kind of varies between 10 and 20 kilos, but like we'd have some people who buy half animals off us.
Yeah.
And they'd come maybe twice a year for a half animal. Like Dexters are small, like you're talking a carcass weight of maybe 180 average for maybe steers at 30 months, and you're probably 160, 170 for heifers at that age, you know. And so like a half animal, half carcass, you're not talking about a huge amount of meat, you're talking about 55, 60 kilos of meat, like, you know. And
so say when I go and get a heifer killed, we usually get a heifer killed for ourselves at home, and the abattoir would kill it and butcher it, and the butcher it would all be done for about €300. So I guess you're looking at your costs and profits quite closely, obviously, because you've been doing it quite well for a couple of years. It's built up quite well. So how do you find that process?
Challenging.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Look, I suppose people's expenses and stuff have gone through the roof in the last few years, and you have to kind of work with people, and but I suppose the biggest challenge that we find at the moment is the amount of abattoirs and butchers that are closing around the place. It's absolutely shocking.
And organic certified ones are hard to find as well.
Yeah, like we've been working with the same guys for the last 5 or 6 years, but like you'd still be worried that that something could happen to them and just upset the whole system that we have in place. So it's worrying going forward, like, because you would like that there would be, I suppose, some kind of better support for them, to kind of keep
security,
them.
Really.
Yeah.
And people are going to be interested and curious because they might want to buy some meat off you as well.
Yeah.
How much would you sell a beef box for, a 10 kg one, for example? I probably know it'll probably depend what's in it. You're both looking at each other. Do either of you have the answer?
I'm trying to think what it is.
It's all online anyway.
It's all online. Okay, so people are interested. It's all online.
Duhalloworganic.com.
Okay. Okay, well, and we'll give that website out again. Farmyard manure, let's talk about that for a second, because I've been to a lot of organic farms and people really treat it as some sort of kind of sacred chemistry that's going on. So what's your routine? Do you pull it out? Do you mix it? How long do you leave it for? What do you do?
It's absolutely gold, to be honest with you. Like, it just does so much more for the soil, I suppose what we use here for bedding at the moment is we have a couple of coarse fields that grow a bit of rushes. So we try to get them built up every year, and we use that as bedding material.
Okay, so you don't buy in straw or anything like that?
Well, we're supplementing with straw at the moment, but we're trying to move away from that and just use the coarse hay because we get that chopped, so it actually breaks down quite quickly. And it's a lovely material, like, and like you've no chemicals put on it, and it's natural, like, it helps the breakdown process as well.
Talking about everything being grass fed, and I know there's silage down there in front of the cattle at the minute. Do you get your silage tested? Are you aiming for like a certain DMD or anything like that?
I don't really, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I suppose this year was the first year we tried doing a small bit of red clover. We grew a couple of multi-species swards, and we did a small bit of red clover silage this year. So I need to crack into that. I'm kind of aiming to feed the animals that will be finishing over the winter, the 2 or 3 animals, with that kind of stuff, to kind of try and keep them in good health and keep the kgs on them, because it is the challenge to kind of keep weight up on animals during the winter. So judging or seeing how that goes, we might look at maybe fattening a few more cattle over the winter and kind of keep the system going. But I think there's a great seasonality to what we're doing as well. Like, that the animals are finished off of grass during the summer and up to Christmas, and like the animals coming off of grass, they're just in super form, like,
Are both of you doing this full time?
I'm actually a primary school teacher, but because the kids are so young and there's so much going on, I'm doing job share at the moment. Just for these few years while they're so young and there's so much going on.
So future plans then, looking ahead to the future, what's next?
I suppose teaching will continue. I do enjoy it. I'm working in a dish school up in the north of the city in Gronabrocher, and so I do really love it. And I think the best thing about it is I have the best of both worlds, in that it's great to get away from the farm sometimes and get stuck into something else, but it's always great to have the summers and the weekends and the holidays to get stuck in with the projects too. Yeah.
And then in terms of the farm, how about the farm? Where's that going to go next?
I suppose a big part of our farming system for the last few years has been eggs. Because of the renovation, we had to close down our packing room, so we got out of hens there for the winter, but hopefully we'll get back into them next spring. But like we were talking about external costs there, the price of feed for the last few years has been absolutely shocking, and it's been up and down, very variable. Like it's been very hard to kind of maintain
And for anyone who doesn't realise, when they see organic eggs in a shop or a farmer's market or anything like that, like those hens are being fed organic feed that's usually at least a third more expensive than conventional feed, if not more.
Looking twice, Hannah, really. Like the last ton of feed we bought was €1,100. And that when I started doing when I started buying it in bulk, you were talking 550, 560. Like that was the jump in feed prices that we had to go through. Like, now I know it's starting to come down a small bit, but it needs to come down. It needs to come down a lot, like, you know. But yeah, like I suppose ours are like we would have them out in pasture as well. Like we've mobile hen houses down the field, so like we have a great system in place for them. So like we're looking to get back into them, but you know we need to get kind of supply needs to be sorted. Like,
and there's a house to be built as well, isn't there? Didn't we talk about that? Yeah. So there's a lot going on. Just before we finish up, will you give me the website one more time for people who are listening?
Yeah, the website is duhalloworganics.com. So yeah.
And do you have any social media presence? Can people find you?
Yeah, we're on Duhallow Organics on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah. And our phone number is on it, so if you want to ring for a chat to go through anything we do, you're more than welcome. Okay. Yeah. Or any special orders. There you go.
Thank you both very much for that. For everyone listening, you've been listening to Organic Matters, the podcast brought to you by the Irish Organic Association. And for more about organics, you can go to www.irishorganicassociation.ie. But for me, Hannah Quinn-Mulligan, that is everything. And thank you very much for listening.